She fined him a $150,000 for tomatoes, but his garden exposed a multi-million-dollar fraud that would shatter her perfect world and change his life forever. You won't believe how the morning sun was barely kissing my driveway when Brenda Sterling, our HOA president, screeched to a halt in her gleaming white BMW. As I reached for my mail, she sprang out, a violation notice thick as a brick in her hand. What would you do if an HOA president tried to steal your home over a few innocent flower beds? 6 months prior, I thought my biggest retirement challenge would be finding a hobby. I was so wrong. My wife, Eleanor, had lost her courageous battle with cancer, leaving our big Portland house filled with too many quiet rooms, too many painful memories. So I took the insurance money and moved to Willow Creek Estates, a picture-perfect suburban enclave of 47 homes, where every lawn was manicured to an inch and every mailbox a regulation black. It seemed like the ideal spot for a grieving widower to finally grow some tomatoes in peace. Right? Wrong. That's where Brenda Sterling, a 45-year-old real estate agent and the self-appointed sheriff of suburban aesthetics, came in. She patrolled our neighborhood in her luxury car like a hunter, her clipboard clutched like a weapon. Her husband, Bradley, sat on the city council, which probably explained her arrogant belief that she owned every blade of grass. Her corner McMansion reeked of chemicals from its over-fertilized lawn, a smell that assaulted you from blocks away. It was like living next to a golf course drenched in steroids. My first mistake? 3 weeks after moving in, I planted a small vegetable garden along my side yard. Just tomatoes, peppers, and herbs, nothing outlandish. I'd pulled the original survey, of course. That's what surveyors do. My garden was clearly 3 feet inside my property line. But on day 3 of planting, Brenda appeared. Mr. Henderson, her voice could slice through steel. Those vegetables violate Section 4. Those vegetables violate Section 4. Kneeling in the dirt, my hands covered in honest-to-goodness soil, I calmly explained, "Ma'am, I checked the covenant. Vegetables are only restricted in front yards. This is my side yard." Click, click, click went her perfectly manicured nails against the clipboard. "I don't care about technicalities. This is about property values and community integrity." I presented my official survey documents, complete with seals. "Look, the property line is right here. My garden is completely legal." She barely glanced at it, dismissing it like a used tissue. "Anyone can fake paperwork, Mr. Henderson. The aesthetic committee makes decisions based on community standards, not your little drawings." The sheer audacity of it. She was calling a professional, county-recorded property map fake drawing. Across the street, sprinklers whirred to life, their mechanical clicking mixing with the stench of her chemical-laden lawn. 2 worlds colliding, her artificial perfection versus my authentic dirt. "Ma'am, this isn't a drawing. This is a legal survey. The decision is fine," she snapped, her heels clicking a menacing countdown as she strode away. 2 days later, a $500 fine for unauthorized landscaping alterations landed in my mailbox. The HOA meeting was even worse. The community center was packed with neighbors who refused to meet my gaze. Brenda, a corporate dictator in a suburban setting, presided. Despite presenting my original survey, plat maps, and even Google Earth printouts, she declared, "The Architectural Review Committee has determined your modifications violate aesthetic standards. The fine stands, but the survey proves," I protested. "Anyone can manipulate surveys," she interrupted. "This board prioritizes community integrity over individual preferences." 4 votes against me. Just 4. Only one brave soul abstained, looking like he wanted to vanish under the table. Leaving that meeting, my footsteps echoed like prison doors slamming shut. It wasn't about vegetables, property values, or aesthetics. It was about power. Pure, petty, suburban power. And Brenda Sterling had just picked a fight with the wrong retired surveyor. What Brenda didn't understand about surveyors is that we don't just measure, we dig. We cross-reference, we investigate, and we uncover discrepancies others miss. We're detectives for lies, and Brenda's lies were about to become monumentally expensive. She wasn't done with me, not by a long shot. 5 days after that disastrous meeting, another, thicker, angrier notice arrived. Continued violation, $2,500 for adding 3 pepper plants. The notice claimed I'd expanded unauthorized landscaping, but I hadn't moved anything. My peppers were right next to my tomatoes, still 3 feet inside my line. In Brenda's twisted world, 3 bell peppers equaled willful defiance. That afternoon, watering my illegal veggies, I spotted her, parked across the street in her BMW, telephoto lens fixed on my garden, documenting a crime scene. The metallic click of her camera mingled with the gentle hiss of my sprinklers, a bizarre symphony of war and peace. It was time for a direct approach. "Miss Sterling," I called out, walking toward her car. "Can I help you with something?" She rolled down her window just enough, her overpowering perfume hitting me like a chemical weapon. "Documenting continued violations for legal proceedings. Mr. Henderson, over willful defiance of community covenants. You should have stopped when you had the chance." The next morning, my old buddy David, from City Code Enforcement, called. "Mark, someone filed an anonymous complaint about your property. Says you're violating municipal ordinances." Anonymous, right? Brenda was trying to sick the city on me, but she'd chosen the wrong target. David and I had worked together for 15 years. "David, can you swing by this afternoon? This complaint is pretty interesting." 20 minutes after he arrived, David was roaring with laughter. "Mark, whoever filed this complaint doesn't know municipal code from their own backside. Your garden is completely legal. Hell, it's 3 feet inside your property line. Most people don't leave that much buffer." Brenda's first power play had failed, but I was just getting started. That night, I did what any good surveyor does when faced with suspicion. I investigated. 2 decades taught me that property disputes hinge on who actually reads the original documents. County records are public, and I still had friends at the assessor's office. A few calls later, I had every single document related to Willow Creek Estates. The original plat, the HOA filing, the architectural guidelines, everything. My discovery: Brenda's violation was absolute nonsense. Landscaping restrictions only applied to front yard modifications visible from primary streets. My side yard wasn't visible from the main road at all. I remembered an old case where a homeowner used the original covenants, conditions and restrictions, CC&Rs, to challenge an HOA. These county-filed documents always trump later board policies. Brenda's board clearly hadn't bothered to read them. But the real bombshell was buried in the Architectural Review Committee, ARC, bylaws. Any homeowner had the right to appeal decisions to the full membership within. Brenda had never mentioned this, her violation notices always stating decisions were final and binding. That was lie number 1. The next morning, armed with highlighted documents, I drove to Brenda's house. Her McMansion loomed on its corner lot like a beige fortress, the hum of her sprinklers drowning out the morning birds. She answered in a silk robe, clearly not expecting me at 8 a.m. "Miss Sterling, I've reviewed the actual HOA documents." I handed her the pages. "My garden is legal under Section 4, and I have the right to appeal any ARA decision." She barely glanced at them, her red fingernails drumming impatiently on the doorframe. "Miss Henderson, technicalities don't matter. This is about neighborhood harmony." "These aren't technicalities. These are the rules you swore to uphold. The rules are what the board interprets them to be," she snapped, her voice hardening just before she slammed the door. "Good luck with your appeal if you can find 3 board members willing to hear it." The dead dope clicked. Challenge accepted. While Brenda tried to intimidate me with city code, I was filing a formal complaint with the State Real Estate Licensing Board. Brenda was using her HOA position to make false property claims while working as a licensed agent, a conflict of interest that could cost her everything. Then came her counterpunch, an emergency R session I wasn't allowed to attend. The certified mail notice seemed official, but that evening, I watched 3 cars pull into Brenda's driveway. All board members who'd bought or sold houses through her. The meeting lasted exactly 12 minutes. The next morning's violation: failure to appear before Architectural Review Committee, additional fine. Now $7,500 total for vegetables that were perfectly legal. Standing in my kitchen, coffee growing cold, I finally understood. Brenda wasn't enforcing rules. She was running a shakedown, betting people would pay rather than fight. But she just picked a fight with someone who spent 20 years measuring lies for a living. Brenda's next move arrived at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, and it was anything but subtle. I awoke to the unmistakable sound of gushing water. Rushing outside in my bathrobe, I found my entire vegetable garden submerged. Not from rain, we hadn't had a drop in weeks, but from Brenda's sprinkler system, which had malfunctioned to spray directly over my fence. My tomatoes were drowning in 6 inches of standing water that reeked of chlorinated pool runoff and chemical fertilizer. Sprinkler malfunction, Brenda chirped the next morning, car keys jingling in her manicured hand as she answered her door. These automated systems are so unreliable. I'll have someone look at it. Mrs. Sterling, I countered. Your sprinklers don't normally spray into my yard. Someone had to manually redirect them. She gave me that practiced real estate agent smile. Accidents happen, Mr. Henderson. Perhaps you should consider relocating your garden to avoid future incidents. The flooding happened again the following week. Same time, same mysterious malfunction. But this time I was ready. My security camera was aimed directly at her sprinkler heads, motion activated with cloud backup. Documentation, I'd learned, always trumps accusation. But Brenda was just warming up. Thursday morning brought a new horror. My surviving tomato plants were covered in perfect circular chemical burns. The acrid, artificial smell hit me first. Nothing like earthy soil. I'd smelled this before. Pool chemicals used to poison roses in a Gresham property dispute. That night, reviewing the footage, I struck gold. A 2:15 a.m. timestamp showed a dark, hoodie-clad figure with a spray bottle in my garden. Unmistakably female. The timestamp perfectly matched Brenda's BMW parked 2 streets away. Not in her usual driveway. I had her dead to rights. But instead of confronting her, I decided to build an ironclad case. Friday morning escalated everything. Flat tires are annoying, 2 tires with a threatening note under the wiper. That's a felony. The note, a ransom-style collage of magazine letters, declared stop causing problems or face consequences. You've been warned. The stench of slashed rubber, morning dew, and the lingering chemical odor from my destroyed garden created a toxic perfume mirroring Willow Creek's poisoned atmosphere. I called the police, but also my security company for more cameras, my old partner James for forensic advice, and a private investigator specializing in harassment. Officer Ramirez arrived, methodically documenting everything. Mr. Henderson, any idea who might want to intimidate you? Brenda Sterling, HOA president. She's been escalating violations over my legal vegetable garden. Property disputes can get ugly. Do you have any evidence linking her? Just then, Brenda's white BMW pulled up. Her concerned neighbor act in full swing. Officer, is everything all right? I heard there was trouble. Someone slashed Mr. Henderson's tires and left a threatening note, Officer Ramirez explained. Brenda's performance was Oscar-worthy. Wide eyes, hand to chest. Oh my goodness, Mark. I'm so sorry. Brenda decided to go nuclear. The lawsuit papers arrived by certified mail on a Monday morning, delivered during the neighborhood barbecue for maximum public humiliation. I was chatting with neighbors, a plate of Dolores's potato salad in hand, when the process server announced, Mark Henderson, you've been served, loud enough for half the block to hear. Brenda emerged from behind her hedges, clipboard in hand, a triumphant smirk plastered on her face. The smell of barbecue smoke and her cloying perfume created a bizarre mix of comfort and impending doom. Miss Henderson, you brought this on yourself. Pay up or lose your home. The lawsuit was a masterpiece of legal fiction. $150,000 in cumulative violations, legal fees, and damages to community property values, caused by my hostile and defiant behavior. She claimed my little garden had devalued every house by thousands. But the real kicker was in paragraph 12. Brenda alleged I'd created a pattern of threatening behavior and community disruption that constitutes a clear and present danger to neighborhood safety and harmony. The woman who'd flooded my garden, poisoned my plants, and slashed my tires was calling me dangerous. That night, something arrived that made the lawsuit look like a friendly greeting card, a death threat, hand-delivered to my mailbox during dinner. Crude magazine cutouts, pasted on construction paper, stop digging or be buried. No postmark, meaning someone walked right up to my house. The rubber cement smelled like elementary school art class. But this wasn't child's play, it was a threat to my life, over tomatoes and property lines. I called Detective Sam Miller. Officer Ramirez had bumped the case to criminal investigations after the tire slashing. Miller, old school with 25 years of experience, didn't mess around with suburban drama. Mr. Henderson, we're treating this as a credible threat. Wednesday morning brought the confrontation I'd been building toward. I was testing my new cameras when Brenda's BMW screeched around the corner like she was fleeing a crime scene. She burst out in silk pajamas and fuzzy slippers, hair wild. "I know what you're doing," she shrieked, loud enough to wake the neighborhood. "You're trying to destroy my business, my reputation, everything. Perfect timing." We had witnesses, Dolores in her bathrobe, the Millers watching from their window, even old Thomas Volek shuffling over with his walker to catch the show. "Mrs. Sterling, I'm just documenting facts." "Facts?" Her voice cracked like thin ice. "You're a bitter old man who can't follow simple community standards. Your stupid garden was always in the wrong place anyway." There it was, the slip I'd been waiting for. "How would you know if my garden was in the wrong place? Brenda, have you personally surveyed my property?" Her face went stark white. That's not, you can't prove anything." I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the county database. "Actually, Brenda, I can prove everything." The next morning, I fired up my GPS equipment and uncovered Brenda's dirty little secret. Professional land surveying isn't just a tape measure. It's GPS coordinates accurate to 6 inches, cross-referenced with county records, plotted against original development plans. After 20 years, you develop an eye for anomalies. Brenda's property was a giant anomaly. Standing in my backyard, GPS beeping steadily, I plotted Willow Creek's actual boundaries against the plat maps. What I found made my blood run cold. 23 of 47 homes had boundary discrepancies, ranging from 2 to 15 feet. Houses built in the wrong places, driveways crossing lines, entire sections on someone else's land. But Brenda's house was the crown jewel of fraud. Her pool deck, 3-car garage, and half her backyard sat on a city utility easement, public land. According to my GPS and the original 2018 survey, Brenda's $800,000 McMansion was partially built on stolen property. The implications hit me like a freight train. Utility easement violations could cost hundreds of thousands to relocate structures. Brenda faced losing her pool deck and garage or paying massive fees. And it got worse. Cross-referencing her real estate transactions with the discrepancies, I realized why she was so desperate to get rid of me. My vegetable garden, planted on my own land, was in the exact spot that exposed her easement violation. Anyone in my garden could see her structures encroach. She wasn't protecting community standards. She was protecting a $250,000 fraud. Digging deeper, I found the smoking gun. The original 2018 development survey by Hartwell and Associates, a firm that mysteriously vanished 6 months later. The principal surveyor, Richard Harrison, had his license suspended for irregular boundary determinations. Brenda's development was built on fraudulent data. Every property sale was potentially void. Every title insurance policy invalid. The entire development rested on a foundation of lies, and Brenda knew it. That's why she fought so hard against my harmless garden, escalating to flooding, poisoning, death threats, and lawsuits. My garden created a sightline that revealed her property encroachment. If one neighbor noticed, others would too. The financial web was staggering. Brenda had earned $340,000 in commissions on 8 homes with fraudulent boundaries, personally profiting from defrauding buyers. But the real revelation came when I plotted the city's drainage easement. It wasn't just under Brenda's pool, it ran through 6 other properties, where she'd manufactured HOA violations to force quick sales, acquired them through shell companies, and resold them to unsuspecting buyers. She was running the most sophisticated property fraud scheme I'd ever seen. Create artificial problems, force undervalued sales, then flip them, hiding massive boundary violations that became the new owner's expensive nightmare. That evening, surrounded by printouts, GPS readings, and county documents, I finally grasped the full scope. Brenda wasn't just a power-hungry HOA president. She was a criminal who'd built her empire on systematic fraud. And my vegetable garden had accidentally exposed it all. The irony was exquisite. She tried to fine me $50,000 for planting tomatoes on my own land, while she'd built a swimming pool on land belonging to all of us. Tomorrow, everyone would know the truth. By Thursday morning, my dining